What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the FiveMarks Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Mr. Martin115, joined by my darling co-host.
Everybody, I am Carmo. Welcome back for another week.
And we've got a big one. This week, we are joined by a man on an absolute rise in pro wrestling right now. You may have just seen him in one of the biggest matches, I'd say probably of his career, on Collision, taking on Okada for the AEW Unified Championship. We are joined by the master of the half crab, Michael Oku.
Thank you. Well, what a lovely intro, and especially talking about the recent stuff. That's appreciated. It's cool to be on this podcast, guys. I've seen the people that have been on before, seen what you guys have done. So
Well, thank you
happy
very
to
much.
have a combo.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot.
Thank you for giving us a bit of your evening to sit down and chat to you. We're looking forward to this one. Carmo, I know that you kind of wanted to start with some recent stuff, so I'll let you take the read.
We normally kind of delve into your early career and then kind of come up to kind of modern day, but I think we can't not start with Forbidden Door. What was that moment like for you stepping out through the O2 Arena in a crowd full of, I don't know, what was it, 25,000 people, 20,000 people, something like that?
18,000 something, 18,000.
Yeah, it's still quite a lot. What was that moment like for you? Obviously, being through like nearly every promotion in British wrestling to get to that moment.
Yeah, no, it was a hell of a milestone in my career and technically life. Something I've spoken about is the fact that it was the O2 Arena that I watched my very first live show of wrestling. It was like a Monday Night Raw in 2010. David Hasselhoff was the guest host, so I was watching during the guest host era. Um, I think the first match might have been like Regal versus Alberto Del Rio when he wasn't even called up yet. There was some really cool people who were also then on the Forbidden Door show that I got to tell them, hey, listen, I watched you, and I'm here now wrestling on this in the same building that I watched you at, and so for it to be like the first place I watched a wrestling show, but then I started my journey, obviously in London, being born from London, and to represent, I say British wrestling, to represent RevPro, to represent independent wrestling, being an independent wrestler that is appearing on that show for AEW as a part of Forbidden Door, and the RevPro logo is there on my Tron was a very, very, it's probably the coolest experience I've had in my wrestling career ever. And then that's yeah, I think I have to rank it as one. I know it just happens, so there's maybe a bit of recency effect, but it's definitely like right up there at number one.
What were
Is
nerves
that
like
something
going
that
into that?
you? Sorry, go on.
What were nerves kind of like going into that one?
So for me, with when it comes to nerves before like and wrestling, I feel very, very calm and collected. And if anybody sees me, I probably look calm and collected pre-match, except for the like final 30 seconds before my music's gonna hit. Then it all just hits me like a ton of bricks, all the nerves, and I just start moving erratically and making weird noises. But so for that one, yeah, that was one where like I was ready to go, and then when I was like, is my music actually gonna hit at the O2 Arena? I was just couldn't stop walking around, couldn't stop pacing, couldn't stop making just screaming and shouting. And then you can even see it in my entrance. Usually, when I make an entrance, especially recently, I usually like to take my time and I walk slow and I'm methodical with my walk. But I'm literally skipping out and running out of the through the curtain and jumping up and screaming. So that can give you an idea of how kind of the nerves were hitting me and the excitement was hitting me all at once.
Was it something you expected to happen? Like obviously, when Forbidden Door originally got announced, was that something that you almost made as a goal to be on that show, or was it something that just kind of happened by chance?
100%, I looked at it as a goal. 100% when they announced it, it was at O2 Arena. It was kind of coming out that it was at O2 Arena around the time of last year's All In. I said, yeah, okay. I'm not on this Wembley Stadium show, I'm gonna aim to be at the O2 Arena for Forbidden Door. So everything that I did from August 2024 to August 2025 was working my way towards that goal. And I tried to set vague goals in wrestling just because that way you don't get disappointed. But that was the one I was like, no, I can be on this show and I feel like I should be on the show. And I'm gonna prove that it makes sense for me to be on the show. But even having said that, it was still a bit of when I found out I'd be wrestling on it. It was still a bit of oh, okay, all right, here we go. Wow, it's actually happening. Here we go. So it was like a combination of the surprise as well as it being the goal.
Look, we're going to go all the way kind of back now, as you kind of said that, like obviously growing up in London, your first wrestling show in 2010. The first question, I know it's not technically the first question that we're asking now, but the first question we always ask everybody is, what was your first wrestling memory?
Hmm. So because I'm the youngest in my family, so I've got older brother, older sister. I just remember wrestling being on the TV when I was growing up. I didn't remember it being a thing. I took a specific decision of like, I am a fan of this. I'm going to start watching this. It was just always on TV. The same way Tom and Jerry was, and Dexter's Lab was on TV. So was the WWF and everything in between. So when it comes to what my very first memory is, that it's either the wrestling video games that were at home with me. So like we had a PlayStation and Warzone was the very first wrestling game that we had in our house. And I just remembered it was said Warzone starring Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh wow, they have to say he's in this game. That famous wrestler, he's in this game. I was like, that's cool. So it's either that or it was around that time, which was being sent to bed, being told you cannot watch The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at Hell in a Cell, which is funny because yet my parents knew that that would be too violent, even though there had never been a Hell in a Cell match. That was going to be the very first one, but that probably means that they did a good job promoting the match and
yeah.
saying this is going to be unlike anything you've ever seen before. That it scared my parents enough to know that they shouldn't let their child, who isn't even 5 years old yet, watch this match. So, so not watching a specific wrestling match is one of my earliest memories of wrestling.
It's a pretty good match as well, in fairness, yeah.
That
Um,
was Jen, it's incredible. Yeah.
yeah, the debut of Kane and everything like that, and that, yeah, that was pretty good. And I suppose it was so obviously growing up in London, like wrestling was a huge thing in London, especially with shows coming over for tours and stuff like that. Was that 2010 show your first ever show attending?
Yeah. So again, I've been watching it as a kid forever, but I had never just gone to watch a show live in person, and it always kind of just bugged me that I would see the rebellions or insurrections that would be coming to the UK, and I feel like there was one at there'd be shows at Earl's Court Arena, I want to say, and in my head I didn't even compute that. I just had it in my head that my parents are not going to take me to go watch wrestling, even though we're all watching wrestling. We're all watching. It's not like just a thing that the kids watched. They were watching it too, and they were like fully engrossed, and they know everybody and everything. Um, but I was only once I was in like sixth form college that a bunch of my friends, some who were like super casual fans, some who were kind of hardcore, were like, "Let's go watch some wrestling," and we all just saved up to get some good nosebleed seats and went to the O2 Arena to watch Monday Night Raw.
I have to just go back quickly and ask one question. When it came to playing the video games and stuff at home, who would kick whose ass in the household at the video games?
Oh, I mean, my brother would always beat me all the time. Like, so it wouldn't even be fair. So what we would do is I must have. I'm not saying I cried a lot, but I probably did. But I remember something that we did a lot was we'd actually then have tag matches against the computer a lot together. And so, and what we would like, we would either be one of two teams. We would either be The Undertaker and Kane, and I would be Kane and he'd be The Undertaker because he's the older brother, or we'd be Bret Hart and Owen Hart, and he'd be Bret Hart. Bret Hart's his favorite wrestler of all time. And then, I'll be the younger brother. And And actually, that actually made me become a very huge fan of Owen Hart because
Because you're
at
constantly
first I was
playing
just
him.
like, I'll just be the young, yeah, 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 and then yeah, you're just like, oh, actually, this guy's very entertaining and very talented. So yeah, yeah, that's kind of how it went whenever we played.
So whenever you bring like the RevPro British heavyweight title back and stuff like that, like yeah, I'm the champion of wrestling. Does he ever just decide to go, I kick your ass and no mercy or something? No.
He doesn't, but at least he bites his tongue. At the very least, he lets me have it. He lets me have this one as a victory.
I'm gonna bring us back because obviously, like you spoke now about your first wrestling memory and you spoke about going to your first show. At what point does it kind of connect in your head that man, there's a school here, I really want to go do this, and I'm gonna go commit to this.
Well, I think I was just kind of like at a point in my life where I said to myself, I need to try and become a wrestler. That's the thing I've always wanted to do. I'd done like a bit of acting for years, like from when I was like 15 to in my 20s. I tried to do sports and stuff that I was kind of interested in, but like I just wasn't doing anything. I wasn't succeeding at any of those things, and I wasn't really finding a complete enjoyment, fulfillment in any of those things. And I had to like stare at myself literally in the mirror one day and admit that I want to be a wrestler, that I at least want to try and see if I can become a wrestler. And so I found some training. Well, I looked up, I had done this years prior to 2016, where I just look up wrestling training schools just to know. But especially at the time, they'd be in random parts of the UK, just obscure parts that like you need to drive there to get there because they weren't near train stations and they definitely weren't near London. Until one day in 2016, I looked up wrestling training schools and I saw that there was one in Brixton, the Projo, the Progress Wrestling School. It was in Brixton. I was like, oh my God, that's on the Victoria line, and that's the same line that I'm living on. I can just get there in less than an hour. I can go to a wrestling training school that's attached to a promotion that I did the research of, and it's just killing it at the time when it came to independent wrestling. So it was a no-brainer to me that I said, okay, let me sign up to this. I have to try. I have to see how I do. And I started in January 2017.
Now I know this is kind of going a good bit now, but like, do you remember anything about your first day stepping in at all? It's always my favorite question to ask people.
100%. Oh God, I don't think I can forget it. January 6th, 2017. Um, I just remember opening the door and it's underneath a train arch in the middle of winter. It's clearly not well insulated because why would it be? But just being able to open the door and immediately see a wrestling ring that close. I had never seen a wrestling ring that close. And like to me in my mind, it looked like pristine and beautiful. The school looked kind of like pristine and beautiful, and it absolutely wasn't. But at the same time, I had feel like I'd prepared myself. I'd heard so many stories of where different wrestlers started off from, so I wasn't expecting a performance center. I was expecting it to be dingy and grungy, and like if kind of the thing of like if you want it, you work through that. It's not an issue. You're
Mm.
just grateful that there's a ring, and then you do your thing. And the one thing I remember from that first session was in that first session we all had a turn taking a back bump, and I feel like that we did crazy warm ups and workouts, and we worked some roll, but we all took a back bump. I remember thinking to myself before I took the back bump, I said, okay, if I can endure this pain, then I can do this. And when I took that back bump, and when they said that my first back bump that I took technique wise was really good, I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this wrestling thing.
Well, that answered my next question was going to be how was that first bump? My question after that, and everyone has so many different answers, and I love it. Was there anything you kind of found it took a bit longer for you to learn? Whether that be kind of rolling, technical wrestling, something that like just took ages for you to learn?
So I think that's where I felt fortunate. When it came to the beginner things, the fundamental things, I picked that up fairly quickly. It was 5 years, sorry, it's not 5 years, it was 5 months, and then I had my very first match. and it was for progress. So something I felt very fortunate to be able to do was to be able to pick this up very quickly. And I think, but I don't think that was just, oh, just I'm a natural. I think it was because I studied so much wrestling and I'd studied so much of the training aspect of wrestling for years before I even started training to be a wrestler that I kind of had an idea of what to expect. I think that helped me a great deal. The I would say maybe the technical wrestling, our school was very they really put a huge emphasis on technical wrestling. And I wouldn't say that I'm anywhere near one of the top technical wrestlers in the country or the world, but I've got a strong foundation there, a strong base in it. Um, but it took me a while to get that strong base in technical wrestling. So if there was anything I would say that I struggled with, it would be that.
I'm gonna ask this
Mm,
just because
uh,
I'm training at the moment, and that's massively where I'm struggling. What would kind of was the click to be like, oh, so this goes to this and that and that. What's kind of advice? Because like I, that's one part I am massively struggling at the moment. That just a bit of advice on that.
So what helps me, again, this is something I tell, again, I now train people. I'm in a fortunate position where I feel confident and comfortable to train people. Something that helped me with with chain wrestling, technical wrestling, was I tried to stop thinking of, oh, I need to know a specific reversal for this specific hold. But it was then learning that nearly every way out of a hold is to you either spin or you roll. And then on the flip side, when it comes to putting on holds, you find a limb and you bend it. And if you do that, then you can find yourself ending up in holes that you realize, oh well, this is how you do that top wrist lock. I didn't realize that I'm actually in there right now. So when I start thinking of I need to think of the specific reversal for this specific hold, and I don't know what it is, and then when you freeze, and what happens? What I started doing was like, okay, there's always a way out, and it's either by rolling forwards or rolling backwards, turning, spinning left,
Yeah.
spinning right. And that has helped me when I wrestle people who are super versed in technical wrestling, like Zack Sabre Jr. That helps me feel completely comfortable when I'm in those situations.
Okay. Okay. Carmel, I'll throw it back to you.
I was just going to ask then about your first match. So having your first match 5 months into training is quite early from a lot of people that we've talked to. Most people are kind of nearly a year into training. But what was that moment like finally getting to step through the curtain and have your very first match?
Yeah, no, that was again talking about an emotional moment. I think that match and then the match I had at Forbidden Door are like equally as emotional things for me, and the fact that they actually got to happen. That I was I remember hearing, I want to say it was like when Edge and Christian had a podcast, and maybe they had the Young Bucks on, or they had tag wrestlers on, or someone who started in a tag team on, and they spoke about how beneficial it was that they started off in a tag team because that way they got to hide their weaknesses, accentuate their strengths, and and you're no longer doing 50% of a match, you're doing 25% of a match in theory. So uh, there's a lot less pressure to be put on you. And my first match and a lot of my first matches were indeed tag matches. And that way I felt there's a lot less pressure and a lot less like kind of magnifying glasses specifically on me. And I just had to do my part of the match really well. And then the match would go well because I'm in there with people who are more experienced. So um, that helped me a great deal being in the ring, being in the tag match with the people that I was with, but then also silly me, I decided to ask to do a promo before my match because I just thought, well, I want to make sure that I'm remembered. I want to make sure that I have a memorable debut. First impressions are everything. So I specifically asked, I think I said, I need to do a promo. Not even ask, can I? I said, I need to do a promo. And they were like, sure. And they just let me kind of say wherever I wanted. And I remember meticulously going over that first promo and scripting it word for word. And that's something I've never done since, is going like word for word for my promos. But I made sure that was on point, and then my stuff in the match was on point so that people, again, fans of progress wrestling who are seeing the very best wrestlers go through the doors can remember this kid, this skinny kid that they've never heard of with four letters as a name.
you finish that match and you walk back out through the curtain, is it just that kind of relief of kind of going, okay, I have my first match, I have my first promo, it's done? Or was it just that pure kind of excitement of, I want more, I want to keep doing this?
It was that, yeah, no, that I was so there wasn't a relief. It was like, okay, I can do this. Back to like, yeah, okay, and that went well. I was self-aware enough to know that that it didn't suck. That was, I think the goal was this match has to not be bad. And I remember thinking there's no way this match was bad. I'm listening to the crowd as best as I can. Like, the more you wrestle, the more you can listen to the crowd because you have less nerves. But I was able to listen to the crowd during that match enough to be like, okay, I think the fans enjoyed that match. Therefore, the match must not have sucked. So I just thought, yeah, okay, this is incredible that this happened. People were giving us positive feedback right after that match happened, including Will Ospreay, who was there watching the show, you know. So, and it's funny how that all comes around in many ways in my career. But
Oh,
like, that was kind of how thinking was. Like, it went well. I can do more. I can do this some more. And yeah, what's next is kind of what my next thinking,
yeah.
my next thought was.
Now, I'm actually going to skip on for a second just because you were talking about tag matches. So obviously you wrestled for Progress for quite a while. You wrestled many other kind of promotions throughout the UK. RevPro comes along. Obviously you make your debut for RevPro. But I want to talk about a match that you had with teaming with Jushin Thunder Liger. What was
Oh
that
yeah,
like being in the ring with Jushin and I suppose tagging with him?
right. Yeah, no, that was a crazy honor. You know, you're being told that this is Liger's final match that he's going to have in the UK because he's announced his retirement like next January. Uh, this is kind of a big deal. And again, I'm 2 years in at this point. This is 2 years into my wrestling career. Um, but you know, Andy at RevPro saw enough in me that it would mean a lot for my career, but also it would make sense for me to be someone that he teams with to have his last match with. I was dealing with a neck injury. I'd recently actually got a neck injury like a couple of weeks before that match, and so I was any other situation, I'd probably take the time off to rest. But I knew I had to try and get through it because if I was like, if I don't, I can't say, oh, let me rest because there'll be another opportunity like this. No, there will never be another opportunity to be part of Jushin Thunder Liger's final match and to team with him. So I had to just kind of ignore any pain I had in my neck and do the match. So I wish I was in a healthier state, but I can still look back on that match and feel proud of that moment that I was there beside him, posing with him, and just actually resting, giving the tag to Justin Thunder Liger. Just a surreal moment, all of it.
I just want to
Yeah,
quickly ask just
it's
there because we see this a lot with wrestling where people are like have these injuries and somehow get through the matches and stuff like that. How much does it take out of you to just blank out the pain, blank out the discomfort, and just get the job done that needs to be done in the ring?
I think adrenaline is a crazy thing. It's a crazy drug. Like adrenaline of the I think the crowd and not wanting to fail, all these thoughts that go through your mind of like things needing to go well and things needing to be completed are what will wrestlers on. It's definitely what wills me on. Uh, there's so many times, and this is not unique to me. There are so many times that wrestlers are just hurt or hurting, and they go through the curtain, let alone get hurt mid-match. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's not even a question of, maybe we should try and wrap up this match, or maybe I should tell the ref to call the match off. It's no, let's get through it and then deal with it afterwards. And I think again, the adrenaline normally makes you not feel as injured or as in pain as you actually are. And that's happened countless times for me where like I'm feeling fine in the moment, and then either as soon as we come back through the plan or the next day, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually in agony. Oh, I can't. This part of my body. This is cool. That makes sense now. Adrenaline's a real thing. So that's how it is for me.
Back to you, Carmo.
yeah, we're going to keep kind of moving along. So I want to talk about the British J Cup. which you won in 2019. What was that like? Because I think that was kind of one of your first, I suppose, major kind of tournament wins in your career up to that point.
Again, what makes what makes those accomplishments mean something? There's a combination of like the booker putting you in that position makes it a cool thing. But I think for me, what adds on to that being super important and super cool and super special is when it's what the fans want. And being in that J Cup, it's a J Cup that, had Pac, Amazing Red, Rocky Romero, El Phantasmo, Robbie Eagles, Barbario Cavanaro. That is just like people who have made their names on a worldwide basis and at many times during that tournament in the first round as well as in the final, the fans are cheering for me and willing me on more than anyone else. It's like, oh, this is what they actually want me to win this. It's not just that the promoter wants me to win this. It's like, oh, this is what the people want. This is crazy. This is cool. So to pick up the victory in that tournament is just and like it was one of like my first like especially in a large building, like a standing ovation, a roar of elation from a crowd. That's the first time that happened, and again to do that with my mum in attendance and my brother being in attendance, that was just a very cool moment, 100%.
Look, look, I've kind of jumped forward a little bit from especially your debut in RevPro and stuff like that. But like RevPro has obviously been such a huge part of your career. Um, but like from where you joined RevPro to even where it is now, there must be such a big difference in I suppose the momentum that the company has as much as anything.
100%. It's wild because so when I joined, I guess my first match was in 2018. So we're coming out of the famed boom of the indies on the UK and European scene. That's kind of coming to an end. I've heard a lot of people kind of put a little a mark at the Wembley Arena show. Progress is like Wembley Arena show as like that's the official ending of the boom, and then 2019 is incidentally my come up in the industry, and there's probably a link to NXT UK rising to prominence and like having restrictions for certain independent wrestlers and then being a, a, a gulf of talent and space for spots to be taken. Um, but like, I'm sorry, what's the question?
It was more so kind of like I suppose from where you started in RevPro
RevPro.
when you debuted to where it is now, like.
Yeah. I was just saying that like it was still like a big deal. Like obviously RevPro was still one of the big promotions coming out of that boom. Um, the argument could definitely be made that Progress was clearly bigger than RevPro. I feel like Progress were able to go worldwide with their brand and do good numbers, and everybody knows about Progress, knows that I like I'd watch shows that would be in like Orlando and whatever, and people would know the chants, people would know, Jim Smallman, there'd be, the Progress, the brand was over. 100%. And I feel like RevPro, that wasn't entirely the case. Um, but the tide seemed to have turned kind of after the pandemic. Not that RevPro again were like a fledgling promotion. They were of course huge, and with the people they were bringing in, especially from New Japan and the British wrestlers that were at the disposal, they were huge. But again, Progress were doing Wembley Arena, and it's kind of crazy that like here we are by talking about RevPro doing Wembley Arena next year. So it's nearly like a big kind of switch of the changing of the guard, but also a thing of, this is the scene that's supposed to have like long gone and been dead and destroyed, and then here's RevPro have done the Copper Box Arena 2 years in a row and
Yeah.
got 4,000 people 2 years in a row. They did obviously just this year the 2 day Crystal Palace show, and then the ambitious Wembley Arena show, which is coming next year. So to be a part of that ambition and aiming big and reaching for the sky has been it's been really cool to be part of, and again to be a prominent part of has been super duper cool.
I want to throw in one question there because obviously, like that time, obviously, as an up and coming talent, seeing kind of the drive of the companies is pushing you along more. But as well, like because you mentioned NXT UK there, with like kind of spots kind of opening up with talent kind of going over to NXT UK, was that also a real like driving force to like, hey, that person's gone now, that spot's available, and I'm going to take it.
I remember there was an article that came out saying that like, it was in 2018, and I think I was backstage at the ballroom. I don't think I was on the show, but I remember reading it on my phone where it was coming out and spreading that there was, you know, restrictions are going to be in place where NXT UK talent can only work certain shows. And the conscious thought I had was, all right, well then, well, someone needs to take those spots, and I'm going to try and take those spots. And again, someone who a year in probably shouldn't be um, thinking that they will be the one to take over the spots of people who had 10 plus years of experience and wrestled around the world and are world-class performers. But in my head, I just thought, well, the lifeblood of wrestling is always about finding new stars and creating new stars. So I was in the belief that, if someone got behind me, I would not mess up the opportunity and mess up that chance to be seen as a big name and to perform well in big matches. And Andy Gordon was the one that actually was like, oh, let's give this kid a chance. And it wasn't me asking, hey, give me a chance because I want to be the guy. It was just, here's a little opportunity. And I felt like I overachieved, and he kept giving me bigger opportunities where I keep overachieving and surprising him as well as myself with how I did.
What about you, Cameron?
But yeah, yeah, I'm going to come back to. I think this as a show in general, not necessarily. Well, this year is a big year for you as well, but I think High Stakes is a pretty big show for you in RevPro throughout the years. But High Stakes 2020, I want to talk about your match with El Phantasmo because that's where you won the British Cruiserweight title. Again, like another huge moment in your career, especially in RevPro. Then obviously winning the title.
Oh, sorry. I think you just
Your mic cut
disconnected
out
for
there,
a quick
Cameron.
second.
Did I
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
off? Am I
Your mic
back?
cut out.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me
yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah, you're
there.
back. You're back.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
That's
Yeah,
all.
I'll cut back to so High Stakes 2020. Are we good? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
all good, all good.
Your
No,
camera's
sorry.
after going
Yeah.
off.
Everything's going crazy now.
That's probably
Yeah, okay,
me.
I can
That's
hear you.
probably
I can
me.
hear you. Go for
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. So a show I suppose that's been pretty prominent for you in RevPro is High Stakes.
Yes.
But I want to talk about High Stakes 2020 when you fought El Phantasmo, and you became obviously the British Cruiserweight champion. What was that like stepping into that match with El Phantasmo and then obviously winning the championship?
What was cool about that specific match itself was so that was a rematch. I think enough time has kind of passed where I can kind of talk about the behind the scenes story about that was that I was never supposed to win the cruiserweight title at that time. The original idea, so I first had a cruiserweight championship match at I think it was Summer Sizzler 2019 against El Phantasmo. That was off the back of having two matches I had a match with Pac in June, and then in that same month of June, I wrestled Shingo Takagi. I feel like people were very impressed with how I did in those matches, and I really think those matches that's what kind of changed my career and allowed me to take off. But then my next match was at the cockpit, wrestling Alpha Tasman in a non-title match. I beat him in the main event, and then it set up the title match at York Hall at Summer Sizzler 2019. So in 2019, there was talks of me going to the New Japan dojo to be a young lion. And it was something I was very much up for and I was like very excited for. And so, and I mean, that Summer Sizzler was the day before the very first Royal Quest, which was at the Copper Box Arena. Um, so there was a lot of New Japan talent on the show and a lot of New Japan officials that were kind of backstage at Summer Sizzler. So this was going to be their kind of first time getting to watch me in person after already hearing that I might be a name that they would have as a young lion. Um, so I did really, really well in that match. And it was probably, I think a lot of people said it was one of the best matches on that show which again is saying a lot because the card was very, very stacked because it had New Japan people who were going to be wrestling the next day on that. Um, but the idea was then to continue this feud with me and El Fantasma. You know, the brilliant J Cup will get me another cruiserweight title match. But then I'm also want to wrestle Pac because he attacked me after winning the J Cup. So I wrestle Pac and I get one more shot at the cruiserweight title at high stakes. And the idea was for me to lose and for me to disappear. And I would, again, this was all supposed to be hush hush. This is the first time I'm telling the story. It was all supposed to be hush hush that I would just kind of disappear because it would be really like hitting home that this is it. This is where Michael Oku wins the cruiserweight title. And I lose and I disappear, but I was supposed to secretly go to New Japan Dojo for a few months in 2020, then come back bigger. I'll have all the freaking the Chanko in the New Japan Dojo. I'll be better, and I'll be ready to then El Fantasma for the title when I come back months later. But then Andy said, "You've gotten two over, so you're going to win the title." So I was like, "Well, okay, fair enough. But what we'll do is we'll have you have a rematch or wrestle somebody in your first defense for the cruiserweight title, and then you'll lose, and then you'll disappear." After, making everybody so happy and making them have a good ending, you're just going to then lose in your first defense, then you'll disappear out of embarrassment of being a disappointment, and then you'll go to Japan. Um, these were the plans, but the pandemic hit. As you know, the pandemic hit in 2020. So no Japan or no dojo happened, and has yet to happen. Um, but what it meant was that I won the cruiserweight title, and it then led to a near 3 year reign as cruiserweight champ. But that moment, it being the semi-main, it was right before the British Heavyweight Championship match, was a very cool kind of nod to how important they wanted this title match, and I guess the title to be. Because maybe, you can put the cruiserweight title match, for the interval or maybe to open the show. But I think Andy really wanted to highlight, hey, this title is big as well, and it's important as well. It's not like a mid-card title; it's a huge title, and it's a huge accomplishment. We're going to put it right before Will's match with Zack Sabre Jr. So it was just a crazy moment. I jumped into the crowd of celebration, and then again another moment of like huge ovation, huge standing ovation, and the crowd losing their mind. So yeah, it was an incredible feeling to become the cruiserweight champion.
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
there's the.
go on, Carl.
Sorry, go on, yeah.
Oh, I was
No,
gonna
go,
say
go on.
I'm just gonna skip on a bit because I'm cautious of time and stuff like that. But like you were like going off your thing of being given opportunities by Andy in RevPro. Winning the J Cup, winning the Cruiserweight title is not the only kind of opportunities we've seen him give you. You won the Rumble, which then got you the big World Championship match with Trent Seven, which you went on to win and become the RevPro World Champion. Was that kind of your man? I've almost made it in British wrestling kind of moment.
I mean, it honestly probably happened before that. I mean, because so that would have been in 2030. So I wrestled Trent at the Copper Box. That was actually me defending the title, which
Yeah,
again is easy to make that mistake because he was wearing the title because I
yeah.
won it against the Great Okan. Then he stole the title because he loves belts. I don't know if you know, but Trent Seven loves a belt. So he stole it and he walked into the Copper Box with the belt. Um, yeah, I had to then defend my title and get my title back. But you weren't the only one to think that. Like Chris Jericho backstage was like, "Congrats, champ," as though I just won the title. I was like, "No, no, no, nah, don't worry. Okay, don't worry about it." Um, but yeah, yeah, like I mean, the match that like I would say put like a huge worldwide um kind of like spotlight on me was the one with Will, which was in 2022. High stakes. Again, we talk about high stakes being important. High stakes 2022 really put like a made me a name, I would say, and how that match went. So when it came to winning the British Heavyweight Championship against the Great Okan, not that it became a formality, but it was that it was like okay, here's the stamp that like okay, I am a top guy in British wrestling because I feel like until then, I was a cruiserweight champ, and there will always be an asterisk if you're not the top champ of a promotion. And I think that like until I won that title, the asterisks were always there of like, is Mike Loku the guy? And then there I am with the championship. And it's like, okay, we can officially say that he is, and I can officially say that I am, and I can officially say that I'm waving the flag of wrestling in this country and I'd say the continent as well. Um, from because I have this title and I'm going around the world with this title.
Now I have to ask because I was there at the Cup Rocks Arena for that match with Trent. But whose
Yes.
idea was it for the Trent Amira table spot? Because all I remember was the table spot and just everybody up to their feet going, "No way, that just happened."
Um, I think it was like a combination of both of those, and I know it wasn't mine. It was not my idea. But I think both of them will tell you that it was their idea singularly. But I think I remember Trent talking to me about the idea months prior, um, of like doing that. So I think it was Trent's idea to do the pile driver through the table to Amira. But I think it was Amira's idea. I think that was one of the first times that she wore a large ball gown. She would always wear dresses when she was managing me, but she never wore a large ball gown. And she thought, oh man, how cool would it be if I'm in the biggest dress ever and he power drives me? So I think that's how the two ideas kind of meshed together. But yeah, Trent was just like, this is needed. This is needed. This is what's going to be remembered. And yeah, fair play. Like honestly, there's so many times where uh, when people bring up that show, let alone the match, they bring up that show and they say that's one of the most memorable things of the show. And if there's like a non-wrestling fan that was taken to that show, which there were a lot of, um, they remember the lady that was put through a table more than literally anything on the show.
You can answer,
Yeah,
ask
it's
the
an
question.
unreal moment. I actually want to just slightly, just because I don't want to miss it out. I want to talk a little bit about OTT and a particular match in general. OTT has been like a huge place for you here in Ireland. I know the Irish fans absolutely adore you. But I want to talk about Scrappermania 6, which was actually the very first OTT show that I was ever at. You were in a fatal four-way that night. It was you, LJ Cleary, Robbie X, and Swerve Strickland. For I think that was it was the second ever independent show that I was ever at, and that was the opening match. And it is probably still to this day, or a different match that you had at High Stakes, which we'll get into in a few minutes, the best match that I think I've ever seen live. But what was that match like for you, sharing the ring with those three guys?
No, that was a super fun time. I think that was the first stadium show back from the pandemic as
Yeah,
well. So like to open that, like that felt like a very special position to be in, to be like, all right, we're back from the pandemic. This is the first match you're gonna see. Uh, that there's a lot of trust that goes into that when you put those four people in there. But those are well, I can speak for me wrestling LJ Cleary and Robbie X. Those are two people that I've shared the ring with multiple times and have done multiple times since that point. So I felt completely comfortable with that being the match, and then having Swerve in there. Oh my gosh, like yeah, just the star that he was at that time, let alone the one that he became, is was just a very it made it big. It's like, oh, right, this is why it's a stadium show. This is why it is, and we're all gonna fit in. Like we never felt like I personally never felt like, oh man, like there's Swerve and then there's all of us in terms of ability. I felt like we all complemented each other and we were all equals in that match. And I think that's why that match worked. And to kick off the show like that, the way we did, it was very cool. I think there's like I was thinking about that match the other day recently. I'm thinking about the fact that he and I did like a double Fosbury flop. He did it off the stage and I did it out the ring and just like, yeah. Yeah, that's a hell of a highlight for me. To wrestle at the National Stadium in general is a highlight, and that match was big for me too.
I want to quickly ask just one
I
silly
just
question with you and Robbie X. Just,
Mhm.
do you know the handstand kick that Robbie X will always do to someone standing on the apron? Is it your
Yes.
goal to always kind of take it in a funny way, or does it just happen? Because it's always either jumping up with the legs kicking out, just falling back. I think every time you take that, it's always something more sillier than the last time you took it.
I think that's a very interesting spot. I think it's because I think I've taken it so many times that I'm just I'm keeping myself, I'm entertaining myself. I'm like, what's a new way I can take this handspring kick that I'm taking once again for the umpty time? I'd love to have a little counter and count how many times I've taken it. Because yeah, I definitely have just tried to see how many times I can take an interesting fall from it. My thinking is always as well. I was like, people are staring at him so much because what he's doing is so athletically insane and impressive that I can get away with doing whatever. And it will either add to it or people won't notice. So it's very funny that you indeed noticed what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
but my favorite one is actually from that match. He does it to you, and literally, you just throw your legs back, throw your arms back, and just fall. It is my favorite one by far that you've done with him. I'll put it back to you,
Like,
Cameron. Now you
and
had a question.
Yeah, look, I kind of want to, again, kind of conscious of time a little bit, but I want to talk about PWG. Obviously, like one of the biggest promotions early in the world. But getting to wrestle there, and I think you wrestled Takeshita on your very first night there. What was that like stepping into the PWG arena and everything?
that was a very nerve-wracking situation, 100%. Uh, so that maybe that's one of the few times where I'm nervous way before my music hits and before I'm on the curtain. So that's it. To get to LA is a 10 plus hour flight. And I don't think, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure I didn't pay for the internet. So all I had was my thoughts, which was a dangerous place when I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna be part of Bola, the thing that I've been watching ever since I started watching independent wrestling, the biggest tournament or you know, the most infamous tournament in all of independent wrestling, and I'm part of it. And I'm wrestling Takeshita, who, I mean, he's probably my favorite wrestler. He's probably my favorite wrestler to watch wrestle right now. But even at that time, he was like, man, that everybody was talking about Takeshita because he had just started wrestling in AEW and having killer matches like consistently every time. So he was one of the favorites to win the tournament, and I'm wrestling him first round. But then there was a lot of imposter syndrome because when they announced it on Twitter, well, first of all, I was the first person they announced to be in Bola. That was already ridiculous. And then they put the first round matches, which was Oku versus Takeshita, and the amount of people that were like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be an insane match." I was like, "Really, really? With me?" But so that was that imposter syndrome of like now having to live up to this expectation, and I'm just on this flight thinking, "Oh gosh, I hope I'm good enough to do this." And then I get to the venue and I decide, you know what, I'm gonna try and sell some gimmicks, and sell some merch by the ring before the show starts at doors. And I kid you not, three different people came up to me personally and said, I never watched a match of yours. I've heard great things. No pressure. Like, ooh, ooh, thank you. So I mean, but then again, it probably went better than I could have ever imagined it going, and it's for that it's one of the best matches and my favorite matches of my entire career because it went so well. It had fans. I don't think it's on the tape, but like fans were throwing money into the ring, which is a custom for lucha libre Mexican wrestling. And you've got a British wrestler and a Japanese wrestler in the ring, and they're throwing in money. That was just like a thing that I don't think had ever been done before, where money was being thrown into a ring for two non-Mexicans in a country that is not Mexico. So, that tells me how much the crowd enjoyed it, and I just, yeah, I was overcome with emotion as soon as the match was done, and yeah, that set me off to people in America getting to have an idea of exactly who I am and in person know what I'm about.
Well, I
Yeah,
was I
I
was
know.
go on, go
I
quickly.
just asked this first, and then I'm going to turn to
Yeah.
you because I know you wanted to ask about a different PWG match, but I wanted to ask about the following night after that to catch the fight, where you went up against the Jericho Appreciation Society. What was that like sharing the ring with everyone in the Jericho Appreciation Society, but also Chris Jericho?
I mean, yeah, so I didn't know about it until the next day that I got to the venue. And I wasn't even like immediate when I got to the venue. I just kind of was like, all right, what's going on here? Like, who am I wrestling? I assumed I'd be in the multi. I think I was told I was going to be in the big multi-man match that happens on night two. I was told that on night one. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'm already out the tournament. Okay, sure. And it will probably be comprising of people who were also knocked out. And I mean, it's a 16-person tournament, so I just thought it would be a 4-on-4 tag match with the people who were knocked out. No, 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 no. We're just gonna choose five of you guys. Say not even five, because Evil Uno was on our team. He made a little surprise appearance, and then we're there wrestling with actual Jericho Appreciation Society, where Chris Jericho is it's the Chris Jericho and The Rock are my favorite wrestlers of all time. So you're trying to tell me I get to a building and I learn that I'm gonna wrestle one of the reasons that I'm a wrestler. Oh, that's insane. That's ridiculous. I didn't see that coming. That's night one was already like a win, a victory. I was like, there's nothing that can happen on night two that can top it. It's already a victory. Give me whatever. I can be beaten in a minute. Whatever it is, I don't care. I'll take it. And then you're like, oh no, you're actually going to wrestle Chris Jericho. Cool. Um, but that was in sort of the most surreal moment of my wrestling career and life. Um, but it allowed me to become like really, really good friends with him, with Chris, with Daniel Garcia, um, and just yeah, and I've actually developed cool relationships with other people in the Appreciation Society, like Sammy Guevara, Ty Mello. So yeah, like it was such a bonus in that way where I've now actually made some friends from it, let alone one of them being an idol, a wrestling idol.
I've got a two-parter question now because my first one's going to be: is it not in the long run better that you didn't know you were fighting Jericho with that 10-hour plane ride? Imagine just the pressure on it.
Oh God. I wouldn't get on a plane. I don't think I'd get on a plane. I'd be like, oh no, 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 no. Maybe there's an issue with my passport. Nah, just I'll stay home. Let me not mess it up. Yeah, it's such a good point because there are a lot of instances where the less time you have to think and you just have to do it, the better it turns out. And I think that's a perfect example where, I just allowed the moment to happen and I just when the match started, I was like, oh yeah, he is just a wrestler, like I am a wrestler, and like everyone else is a wrestler, and we're going to do spots with each other. That's what it is. And that helps me calm down and not again, not overthink it, not have some kind of panic attack or anything like that. That kept me calm.
My next question then was going to be: it's not to do with a match. It's more of the very next day. It's kind of your own timeline of you've just done PWG and you have massively blown up online. Like you have wrestling fans going crazy online about you. You have Chris Jericho praising you about how much of a great job you did that night, and then obviously being brought on to his own podcast to talk about all of that type of stuff. What, like in your mind, what's that timeline like? Is it just like an out of this world kind of moment?
Well, yeah, that again, I think the flight back home, the 10 plus hour flight back home gave me that time to be like, what actually just happened? Where did I just go? Where have I just come from? You know, like that allowed me to really think about all those things, like you said, that just happened where I got to be in the ring with so many like people that I've been watching on TV, like again recently of like AEW, but then for decades before I even you know, thought about stepping into a training school, but then also just being the talk of people's lips. I really think that Speeble won the tournament, and so people were talking about him because he finally won a tournament. I think he did all his tournament matches all on the one night because of visa issues. But I think as well, I was able to leave somehow with loads of people talking about me because I did so much stuff in the ring with Chris Jericho. So there was so much clips and photos with me and Chris Jericho in the ring. And people were talking about my match with Takeshita in night one and it being a kind of a show stealer, but also a shocker for a lot of people being surprised or blown away by this person who they might not have heard of the match that I did. So um, I saw it as, man, this is really going to help. Again, I'm always also thinking about, okay, how now in terms of next steps and next movements, where do I go? This is going to help big time, and like I'm excited for where this goes.
I'm going to move on a bit because I know Carmel has many more questions about matches and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
we've to get into Q and A and everything. So I'm gonna let Carmel go into AEW. But before we get into AEW, there's obviously one big match, one big night that we're gonna have to talk about, and that is obviously high stakes with Will Ospreay. You have Tony Khan up watching the match. You have Andy in the crowd as well. It's you have probably thousands, if not like millions of people watching on RevPro on demand.
I was in the crowd as well, just
Karma was in the crowd as
throw
well.
it in there.
This is Will
Go.
Ospreay's final independent match. What's going through your head that day? You found out now Tony Khan's also be watching, and just getting through the match and getting to the back afterwards. How like what was that day like?
Oh man, that yeah. Again, I think I mean this. I guess is the point of the interview to talk about a lot of pivotal moments in my career, and I think about that one, and I'm thinking, okay, well, so where does this rank on like important and pivotal moments in my career? And you mentioned a lot of reasons as to why it was so pivotal. The fact that Tony Khan, he made it a point to go to watch this match. He's like, oh, I know this match is going to be good or special. I need to be in person for this match. Uh, that is that him seeing it firsthand and him seeing me wrestle again firsthand because he's seen me wrestle in RevPro a few times maybe before that. He saw some of my very first early RevPro match because he would just go to watch RevPro at the cockpit, a less than 200 seat venue. He would just be there sometimes watching. But for him to see that match and to be there for Will's an important night in Will's career helped, kind of where things are going with me right now. That match is, it's so special because of let alone how well it went, but what it meant. People look at it as like a torch being passed. People look at it as, you know, kind of like the beginning of the kind of like the beginning of the end of Will Ospreay's time, obviously with us in the independents. But yeah, that's I may never have a better wrestling match than that. And I've had loads of matches since then that I've been super duper proud of. And I might make the argument that I've had matches where I've been more proud of my performance singularly in other matches since then. But in terms of the perfect storm of story, time and place, and where we all were, and yeah, I can't even think of all the words to describe kind of how special that night was. And I've watched it on demand back loads of times, and it comes across as loud in if you watch it on VOD. But I think again, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be the only one here to say this, but if you weren't there in person, you won't understand the feeling and the noise that was going on in the Crystal Palace Arena that day.
Yeah,
As a
I 100% agree. Like that show was quite a long show. It was a couple of hours of a show, and I think even just before you started to make your entrances, the crowd were getting quite tired. But as soon as that music hit and the match is on, like it was just absolutely unreal. The atmosphere and everything was incredible. But for you in your career, did you know going into that match that it was going to make such a difference, or was it more so coming out of that match as you were like, okay, I've just done something special there?
Well, I mean, you talk about earlier about, isn't it better that I didn't know that I was going to wrestle Chris Jericho? Well, I was informed that Tony Khan will be there to watch the match like a few days prior. So it did add that bit of it added that bit of oh okay oh boy here we go it's gonna be good to proceedings. Um, but I also did think well if this does go really well, this will go a long way in increasing my my name value and increasing who like my star power, however you want to describe it. This will increase my value around the world. Um, the thing that made it a challenge mentally, let alone physically, because of the wrestling aspect of it, was the fact that there was the weight of expectations of this is Will Ospreay's final independent wrestling match. So people want to be there just for that, just to be a part of that. So then there's going to be some people that actually went to that show, and I'm sure that's the case, that actually might not actually know who I was. And even though I was walking in as the champion, it was a championship match, it was a RevPro show, they might actually not know who I was. They would just hear, oh, Will Ospreay's wrestling? Oh, we'll be there. This is last match, we'll be there. But then also, there's the people that do know me and do know that me and Will Ospreay had a highly critically acclaimed match 2 years prior. And, I mean, name a number of your favorite movies where they do a sequel and the sequel just doesn't live up to the first edition of the film. So there's that thing of like, okay, we have to make sure that we honor the first match and try to top it. I remember feeling when we came to the back, I was like, oh, we topped it. We topped it. I know we did. I just know we did. There are still people, obviously, fans, and so all subjective. There are some fans that went that match at High Stakes 2022 holds a more special place in their heart and they prefer it. But I was just making sure, we were both making sure that this is as good or if not better than the last match we had, and that this is fitting of Will Ospreay's final Rev Pro match, final independent wrestling match.
Well, I can say as a fan for myself, I have that match in such high regards. Like, even I remember tweeting during the match, like, we don't deserve this match. And I know Carmel has a different feeling being there, but like where people would talk about like, oh, this like Taker Sean, this is the match I show people who aren't wrestling fans to get into wrestling. That is, I never had a match. That is my match. That is, hey, I'm a wrestling fan. What's a amazing match to watch to get into it? Oku Will Ospreay has everything. You want an hour of just absolute. I can't believe he kicked out of that. He's done that. What is going on? Oku Ospreay high stakes. It is my match to go. Yep, that's your match to watch if you want to be a wrestling fan.
And that's super high praise. Again, it's something I would have never expected. Again, like even so, like that first, like so that match being rated 6 stars by Big Dave Meltzer is was even and a crazy thing for me. Again, we had our first the one that was at York Hall was rated 5, and I remember thinking about the matches that I'd seen, just the matches that I was a fan of and that were special to me, and that a lot of them were rated 5 stars or even higher. And I would never think that people would be talking about my match the way I think about those matches that I watched. It's a crazy thing that I didn't predict would happen. If you told me, would you want it to happen? I'm saying, oh yeah, of course. But for it to actually have happened, and I have that library now of matches where people can be like, yeah, as you say, they can point to it and say, yeah, watch this. It's crazy. It's a crazy feeling.
Carmel, I'm gonna throw it back to you because I know that you want to go back through the AEW run, and then we'll head into the Q&A quickly before the call just automatically ends.
I actually only have two or three questions left. But one I definitely want to talk about is the match against MJF for the AEW American Championship, I believe what it was at the time. Again, that kind of cuts into the rivalry that MJF was also having with Will Ospreay at the time coming into All In. What was that like, I suppose, knowing that you're going to wrestle MJF in a Rev Pro ring?
Yeah, no, that was I was just trying my best to just kind of keep it quiet. I think just being so excited and like, I really got to keep this quiet. I've got to wait for the announcement. That was more than anything. I was ready for it again. Like, he for sure wanted to do that match because it would help him with his build with Will Ospreay in the lead up to Wembley Stadium. Um, but again, it's a flattering comment of a compliment, really, that he wanted the match. This wasn't again, I feel like there's some people that might think, oh, maybe Tony Khan is bankrolling RevPro and is actually secretly in charge of RevPro and he can do it when he wants with the promotion. And then B, he's told MJF that you must go and wrestle at RevPro to further your story of Will. No, this was all MJF's idea. He just got the green light to do it, but it was his idea. He's like, I want to wrestle Michael Oku. I want to do it at RevPro, and I want to do it at York Hall Bethnal Green because he's worked for RevPro in the past. He enjoyed working with Andy and enjoyed wrestling with York Hall. He was already aware of my stuff. I know that to be true because we exchanged some text messages pre-pandemic. So he's got his finger on the pulse, whether he wants to admit it or not. Um, And then there it came. There it came of like, okay, well, this is the match that's going to happen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put a challenge out, and the video is going to play, and then the match is going to happen. Um, I was excited for it. I was very excited for the world to see that this match was happening, as well as the fact that it was going to sell out York Hall, which it did. It was like the hottest day of the year. It was boiling hot in that building. Goodness me! But we had a super fun match, and uh, one of it was a physically hot, as I just said, but in terms of noise, the crowd was just so loud for that match because I mean MJF he generates that emotion from the crowd very negatively and sometimes positively. Some people obviously love him because of how good he talented he is, but it just made people really get behind me as well and really be like, no, this is our guy. And it was important for me to try and again I put out some videos and promo videos to promote the match. And for me, I was like, well, okay, if you really think about it, if you put the smart hat on, there's no way I'm winning this match, and it's pretty obvious, kind of, that this match is to build to him versus Will Ospreay. But how can I make people believe that maybe I'm going to win? And that's why I thought, okay, if I can get a promo video that will be uploaded by AEW, then that might help people believe I'm going to win. If I make the slant that like, oh, if I win it, I might wrestle at Wembley Stadium, people might believe it because there were already rumors of me wrestling at Wembley Stadium. So it was important for me to go out of my way to put that work in so that the crowd can believe in the moment that I might win the match, and then people might think, oh, actually, or maybe Will Ospreay might come and cost him the match, or if he is involved. Um, so I feel like I was really happy with what I did in terms of that part of the match of like making people believe that maybe there's a chance he might win, and then the match happening the way it did and it going really well again helps me in my standings when it comes to AEW.
Like even like there's four of us a part of this podcast, and I remember coming up to the Wembley match between Will and MJF. We were all convinced it was going to be turned into a triple
Triple
threat.
threat.
Every single one of us were 100% convinced. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but who knows, down the line it might. I kind of want to throw this second last question. I've one more question after this into kind of a bit of a mix, just because there's a bit of everything involved. So you've been working a lot for CMLL. You've worked quite a bit for Ring of Honor. Obviously, we just saw you last week, I believe it was, against Okada on Collision. What's it like? What's I suppose what's it like being Michael Oku at the moment, being able to travel around nearly all over the world, wrestle in some of the biggest promotions in the world, and also wrestle, I suppose, one of the biggest legends nearly in the world in Okada as well.
It's exhausting. It's just what the real answer is. It's tiring and I'm tired. No, I'm you'll rarely, if ever, hear me complain because, I think about being the kid that stepped into that wrestling school all those years ago and just was just hoping that the back bump wouldn't hurt that much to now doing what I've done around the world. And again, I realized that I'm in a unique position where I can take bookings for the promotion that's a few miles down the road from me, that's a promotion that is in a library or that's in Arena Mexico. Or, and that to me, that's what's fun about where I am right now, that I can do that I can wrestle in multiple indie promotions up and down the UK, in Ireland, in Europe, in America as well. And then CMLL's on the phone, AEW's on the phone, Rick Warner's on the phone. I do feel like I'm in a very fortunate position, and it's kind of been a goal of mine to be in this position where I'm like, okay, well, I want to be in demand, and all these top companies are wanting my services. It again, like I said, it means that I've got to be in multiple places at once, but it's very rewarding because I feel like I've been working so hard and putting in so much work and putting my body on the line literally. I would like it's a phrase you hear in wrestling all the time, but I don't know. I feel like I really literally do that and put my body on the line to try and get people's attention and to make noise. That here I am in a position where, oh gosh, okay, well, I can be in all these places. I can be in the top companies in the world and still kind of represent the scene I'm in and still try and contribute in many ways that I can when it comes to UK and European wrestling.
So I just want to thank you again for your time, Michael, for joining us and spending nearly an hour and a half talking to us. But I have one final question for you, and I think it's the most important question I've probably asked you uh, today. Amira, what's
Yeah.
it like, or how important is it to have her by your side as you go through all these huge moments in your career, and also how important has she been to your career?
I think I don't know if it's possible for me to have done this all without her. Again, we just spoke about how exhausting it is. It's always what I want. It's the life I've chosen, and it's all going really well. But it's not easy. It's not easy, and I think she has done a an unbelievable job at propping me up and keeping me going during it. Um, yeah, I think without her, this I don't get to the heights that I'm at the moment, and then this is me without even talking about the on-screen part of things, because that's a whole nother thing which I also have the same sentiments towards. Because I was finding success, without her before we even knew each other, but I think coming to, bigger platforms and other levels, she adds something to my presentation that I never even considered as an addition to my presentation. Um, it just makes us stand out in just a different way, and then I'm a decent enough wrestler, but there are decent enough wrestlers all around the world. There are great wrestlers all around the world. So, well, okay, it's kind of like, all right, yeah, you can do a reverse rider. What else you got? Um, but having her by my side to be my manager, and again in a babyface role, which is such a unique thing, especially when it's a valet and you just rarely see it being a thing where it's a babyface act. I feel like we're breaking ground in aspects, um, but like at the same time, we're honoring kind of the past with like you could have like Macho Man Elizabeth parallels and Sherry Martel parallels, I think, are in her as well. That like she's incredible at what she does, and anytime people watch her, they always are impressed by what she does and sees that as a manager, she adds so much to the entire match, let alone just me. Um, so like it's been cool to it's been cool to have a talent like that with me, but it's also been cool to have my actual partner be with me as I travel the world because you hear so many not horror stories, but just the struggles of being a wrestler and being on the road and traveling, and then you don't get to see your loved one, but to have your actual loved one be there beside you for these important moments, or literally, yeah, literally there ringside for you has been an incredible thing. So yeah, she's basically my rock is how I would describe her,
I'm gonna
and
throw
the rock is so how much more of a compliment. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw one question on top of it. Has there been any spot during a match where you've actually gone, "Oh shit, is she okay?" Because we talked about the table spot. There's also the push from Will into the barricade at high stakes, which looked nasty as hell. Is there ever a moment where you've been like in the ring, seeing it, and gone, "Is she okay?"
Oh yeah, that's one that's one of them. And when I wrestled Ricky Knight Jr. earlier this year, like a month ago or so, wherever it was, I was Ricky Knight Jr. and he also threw her into a barricade. It's a mirror and barricades. That's the deadly thing where I look at her and it's not me asking if she's okay in my head. I'm like, she's not okay. So I can already tell. Oh, that didn't look good. That she can't be okay. But she's a trooper. She's a trooper through and through. She's the one more willing to do these things than I am willing for her to do these things. And she always wants to get involved however she can, and that can be so helpful again for the different stories we tell. And then again, another addition is that storytelling wise, she's a new element that can be involved and that can be utilized in just different stories that I can be a part of as well as her. So yeah, I mean, we're trying to explore what new things we can tell in terms of stories, while also not just like completely just blowing our load and doing absolutely everything. We're trying to still hold off on things as well as see what unique things or different things we can do together as an act.
So how long do you reckon until she does like a Leon Slater spot and just dives off of some sort of platform?
God, I think she. I think there's a chance that she's already suggested that, and I there's it's mostly me saying no. As we've learned from this, if you haven't gathered, it is mostly me telling her no, absolutely not. That's how it happens mostly, so that we don't just because the fans might get tired of it quickly. She also might get seriously hurt. But it's also just yeah, we're trying to save these things for the important moments. But if it was up to her, she'd be doing a something crazy every single match of mine. And I have to tell her we have to pick our spot, we have to pick our moments.
Thank you very
Good answer.
much
Yeah.
for joining us. Now we did mention we have a fan Q&A, so we put out on all our socials that we're going to having you on, and we got a load of questions from the fans of yours, listeners of ours as well. And I'm going to run through as many as I can. I'm going to start off with it's a two-parter question. So,
So,
who's a dream Irish wrestler you haven't faced yet?
wow, what a question. So, I feel like it would be cheating if I say someone from WWE. That'll be it. Like, I'm not gonna. I was a huge fan of Sheamus before he'd ever even signed to WWE because of the wrestling channel that was on TV here in the UK, and they showed a bit of Irish whip wrestling. So, and they had a little montage on the wrestling channel that would play as well with Sheamus doing his thing, as like alongside AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Jushin Thunder Liger, it'll be Sheamus O'Shaughnessy as well. So I was a fan. I just want to say, I want to be a hipster and say I knew him before he was cool. But I won't choose Sheamus. Ooh, I tell you what. See, I really feel fortunate that I've wrestled a lot of the top stars in Ireland. But if there is one person that I'd like to wrestle that I haven't even like, I don't even think we've touched in a ring, it'd be Big Damo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Big Damo.
Good grab,
That's
man.
it.
Can I throw in there as well? You had a bit of a thing with Jay back in Belfast. I think it was last year. Is that
It,
is that something that you'd like to revisit maybe somewhere down the line?
Hey, 100%, of course. Yeah, we had it was a draw. I believe
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a draw is how it ended, and I that was not the time to go 5 more minutes or sudden death. So yeah, if the time is right, listen, we can 100% revisit that.
Well, I'm just going to say, and this is mostly to Joe, anniversary is next month. They both have championship titles. There's two massive matches right there. Damo, Jay, pick your one. It's just saying it, just throwing that to Joe. The part
Hopefully he's listening.
the part two to the question is who do you go to for feedback on matches?
Speedball Mike Bailey. That's like the one like constant that I go for feedback. You kind of try and go to everyone for feedback, especially if you're like at a show. You want to go to the people that are there, and you just kind of see like out of the people who are there, who makes the most sense to go to feedback for. But someone who, whether they're there or not, I ask for feedback from is people like Bailey. I feel very fortunate. I've been doing that. I've been going to him for feedback for at least like 6, 7 years now. Um, I credit him to me understanding how to have really good matches. I'd go that far and say that. And what's been very useful is that just by happenstance, he's been there, either literally in the ring or backstage for a lot of my pivotal matches so that I can bounce ideas off him before I have my matches. So, I mean, of course, we talk about Forbidden Door at the O2. He was my tag partner. So I really credit that match going as well as it did in terms of putting a spotlight on me being because Speedball Mike Bailey knows me, knows what I can do, and tried to make sure that happened. He was also there for me to bounce ideas across when it came to wrestling Takeshita. He was there. I mean, trying to think of other situations. Okada, he was there. Like, and when I found out I was wrestling Okada, I literally ran straight to him. I didn't go to anyone else. I went straight to him, being like, "Hey, help me." So, having him as that resource of like, this is the things that will help, and here's why it makes sense to do this, and he explains it as well. He does a good job explaining it. Yeah, that's my guy right there. Speed.
Who's the most annoying out of the three? Oku, Doris, or Slater?
The Reese. So first of all, I don't know why they think that there was a chance I would say me. But, but like, okay, but like it's nearly objectively me. You can put that poll out on social media, and the answer would be Doris. Well, actually, you have to only ask the wrestlers. Even if you ask the three of us, if you do like a little league table, they're like, hey, you have to choose one person. Leon Slater will 100% choose Doris. So that's 2-1 right there. Yeah, yeah. There's no one. Doris sometimes is one of my like funniest wrestlers to watch wrestle because he does some of the like just the most entertaining things. Sometimes in ways that aren't meant to be entertaining, but just make me personally laugh. But I'll also be kind and say I don't think there's a harder worker in wrestling, especially in the indies, than Doris. I always point to Doris and LJ Cleary as the two like grafters, the people that freaking go for it when it comes to wrestling. Those are the two that I say, hey, are you going for it as hard as those two? If you're not, then you don't have a choice to complain. You can't complain about how things are going. But Doris is the hella annoying. Come on, we're doing it.
Um, oh, this kind of goes back to the first question. A fan has asked, "Will we see you in an Irish ring again?"
I mean, if it's one of those things, it can very much happen. When was the last time? Was my last time in an Irish ring when I wrestled?
Jay,
No, no, no. I did another Irish show, the show that Pete Dunne was on. I was actually on that show as well.
Yeah.
Um, at that new venue, I forget the name of the venue, but yeah, yeah. So I mean, listen, I think me and Joe got a good relationship. I know Joe's is he's kind of like he's kind of like a dick nowadays. Is
it's
that the
it's
kind of
it's
Yeah.
it's it's a
Yeah.
that's the
little touchy subject, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's a dick now. Publicly, he's publicly a dick.
he's publicly
People
a
would
dick.
make the argument that he's always been a dick. But
Yeah.
but listen, I think like he's businessman. He's still a businessman. I think if everything aligns, I think we can see me in an Irish ring somewhere soon enough for sure.
This actually goes back to a question I asked earlier on about like advice on something. Someone has asked, "What's the best advice for performing a European uppercut?"
Oh, great. Um, that's such a specific question.
Right?
I mean, I tell you what, the key is make sure again if you're going with your right arm, make sure that you're stepping forward with your right foot. I like to step forward, and as soon as I step forward, that's when I'm swinging in with that European uppercut. The other thing as well is you can go straight up, or you can go just straight forward and into the person. But study your tapes of the best European uppercutters. Cesaro, Claudio is probably the best to go to. Um, just look at how he gets connections there. Conor Mills has also got a good European uppercut. He's just always had a good European uppercut as long as I know him. So just get that meat. Just get the meat and just make contact with the meaty part of their body as well. Meat on meat.
What's some of the best advice you got early in your career?
Oh, ooh, early on. So I was very fortunate enough to go to a lot of seminars, or a lot of people did a lot of seminars at the Progress Wrestling School. I feel like the affiliation with Progress then allowed a lot of Progress wrestlers to come and do seminars attached to the school. Um, Two of them that stick out in my head right now that were early on was one by Zach Gibson, one by Pete Dunne. Zach Gibson said that everything's a work. Like everything. He just said in the world, in life, everything's a work. Is he said in his Liverpudlian accent. And I just don't know. I just remember thinking about that. I'm like, oh, yeah, but you can make that argument. Yeah, that's very true. Everything is designed to be something else. Or you're supposed there's an idea, there's a reason that something is happening, and it's probably for some other kind of gain. Everything is a work. And then the other one was by Pete Dunne saying that like the money will come. And the context of that phrase was him talking about how hard you work for wrestling and how listen, it's quite an investment when you start wrestling as an independent wrestler, and then there's a hell of an investment. You are spending a lot of money to go to training, to if you're traveling to go to even help out at shows. Sometimes if you can't just jump in a car, you either contribute to the petrol or you are getting trained to go to shows. You're spending a lot of money, but you can either decide to not spend that money, but then you end up not getting these experiences by helping out at shows, showing your face. You're not, being able to go and train, or because showing your face can maybe get you a foot in the door and an opportunity to be on a show. And then, obviously going to training will make you a better wrestler. So his kind of thing was try not to worry too much about the money because if you put the work in, the money will eventually come. And I I can now well, I feel like there's been examples where that is the case. I can say that all right, he was kind of right about that when it comes to that say. And I can say Zach Gibson was kind of right in saying that everything's work as well.
Is there anyone still on your dream match list that you haven't fought?
The Rock, that's
Yeah.
the one. That's the one. I mean, and it's crazy, right? Because even as I say it, I'm like, well, that is obviously a ridiculous person to say as a dream moment. But I would have 100% would have said that it was ridiculous to say that I want to wrestle Chris Jericho, but it happened. So, so now that because that happened, I said, okay, well, I'm not taking the Rock off my dream list until it happens. So, I mean, but the Rock is probably obviously, well, he is definitely number one on that list. Um, I'd like to wrestle CM Punk. Um, who else would I like to wrestle that I've not wrestled? That's the thing. In AEW, I've wrestled so many people, so it'd be rematches that I want. I'd
Yeah.
want a rematch with Pac. I'd love to test myself against freaking Swerve in a singles. I've not done. Um, freaking Kenny Omega. Why not? Hangman Page. I've had singles matches with Kyle Fletcher, but that's before he became the beast he is now. So yeah, with AEW, it'll be a lot of rematches, but first times it'd be like The Rock and CM Punk is first time. And oh, Christian Cage. Oh my God, Christian Cage, 100%. Christian Cage.
Well, there's that
That's it.
opportunity now.
It's not impossible.
No, and for people that might be thinking, God, he is crazy going for the Rock. Biggest example of just talking into existence right now, Joe Hendry. Everything he's done right now,
Hendry.
he's talked into existence.
I remember coming back from the Mania weekend from Vegas. I had the like 7 matches in America, and then one last match in Doncaster against Leon Slater at High Stakes 2025. That amazing pay-per-view name. Um, and just like so exhausted, and we're on the drive back, and I'm just about to head into my house, and I start to pull up Netflix. I'm like, actually, well, Mania's actually happening now. We're coming back home that late that like Mania's happening, and Randy Orton's in the ring. I'm like, oh, Randy Orton's about to find out who he's wrestling, and I just remember thinking, okay, it's got to be. I'm trying to remember who I thought it might be, or who most people thought it might be. I think maybe like Ray, maybe Ray Phoenix, not Ray Phoenix, but there was someone like that
Yeah.
that people were thinking this could be possible because like they are available, or there was someone who just got released that might be debuting soon, and like, oh, this makes sense. Nobody can say that they thought Joe Hendry,
No,
but I just remember being tired and just losing my mind at whatever o'clock in the morning on my street, being like, Hendry. And you will never hear anybody being like, you'll never hear a wrestler say, what the hell? Why the hell is this happening to Joe Hendry? I don't get it. Every wrestler is happy for Joe Hendry. We don't get it, actually. That's not true. We don't understand what's going on, but we're all happy for him that he's wrestling around you in the WrestleMania, that he's doing this, he's doing that.
next question. And this one now, this is a very recent question. So you might not know, you might know. But how does it feel to be in the top 100 at number 64 in the PWI Top 500 that went live today?
Okay. Well, oh yeah. It's cool. It's cool. Well, I mean, listen, I could have many different thoughts because that's actually lower than I was last year. Last year I think I was 38, so I was in the top 50, I could say. Um, but listen, the I know how the evaluation periods are like middle of the year to the next middle of the year, and it's based on like the big matches you have and the big victories you have and the big bouts you have. Like it's gonna be hard to top that last year I had where I'm actually defeating Will Ospreay and I'm holding that. British Heavyweight Championship for a year, going defending in Mexico, Costa Rica, Canada. Like I did so much with that title reign, and I feel like it happened all during that evaluation period. And then I wrestled for AEW for the first time and picked up a win there again. The wins are important for the PWA 500. And I was like, oh, 38, this is insane. I didn't think I could top it. So to still be in the top 100, I'm very much happy with that. And I also, my favorite thing about the PWI 500 is because I love how upset people get out of it. Wrestlers as well as fans, they get so upset. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite days of the year.
I can already hear the 5 people saying he's washed.
Yeah, yeah. I'm done.
Apart from yourself, who is the greatest independent wrestler at the moment?
Um, uh, one called Manders.
That's a
I
good shout.
think I think there's I've not seen him have a bad match. Like I've seen him have like a handful of matches, and that's when he's coming here to Europe and to do his thing. And he's just always had like above a good match, great to incredible matches. He's just consistently a great performer who has who has just like come into the UK, come into Europe and done great. I think he's still the WXW champion. He won carat 16 carat this year. And then he's done great things at RevPro as well. I had a match with him that is one of my favorite matches that I've had full stop, let alone this year. Um, that I think I'd look at him and say that he's someone that must be on the top of everyone's list as someone that you gotta look at and think, man, every time a match of his gets announced, I see the excitement from fans. I see the excitement even from myself. I remember he had a match earlier this year, and it was like one call Mendes was Conor Mills. Everybody's like, "Fuck, of course." But I feel like that happens with nearly every match he's had against like Leon Slater, against Luke Jacobs. They're like, "Oh, fuck, yeah." So and he always delivers. So I'm gonna put one called Mendes on that list, like beside me.
This isn't really a fan question, but I think this is a good question to kind of end on. In 2025, we've seen yourself, Leon, Doris, Robbie X, and countless others really rise and shine in not only the States, but independent wrestling and stuff like that. What's it kind of like getting like to kind of be with your mates and just be like, man, look at us. Look at us. Look where we've actually gotten to now.
Yeah, I think we were fighting an uphill battle. Again, we talk about coming out of the pandemic and the reputation that our scene had and the wrestling and wrestlers that we had at our disposal to either learn from and get better with. Um, it was an uphill battle to try and kind of rebuild the reputation of British wrestlers. And I think that like there are now, I think slowly but surely, or even quietly, we kind of snuck ourselves around the world uh, and have shown that you can put us among the very best, and we are among the very best. There are so many British talent that are currently in Japan and doing multiple tours of Japan. There are so many British talent again, like myself and Robbie just did it. Where we're going to Mexico. Robbie's going to Mexico and Japan as well. Um, and then you talk about the Leons of the world who's just killing it in TNA, Doris, who is going, it feels like he lives in America. The amount of times he's every time I see him, I look at his Instagram, he's just in America, in a random part of America doing GCW here, there, and the other, or going viral for something he's done. So I think that there's countless examples, not just myself and not just the ones you mentioned of British wrestlers who we bump into each other in different parts of the world. I'm like, whoa, this is cool that we've been able to get here and that we've been able to wave the flag of British wrestling. And again, I say that the entire continent as well, because there's so many wrestlers from France as well as Belgium as well as Ireland who we bump into and we get to like say, man, it's so cool that we're doing this. It's so cool that you're doing this. It's so cool that we are here. So I think we all quietly, silently kind of just let everybody know that, oh no, there's talent still here. And not only are we pretty good. No. We'll do you one better. We're among the best in the world. I haven't even mentioned the young guns in terms of Luke Jacobs and D. Fowler. I haven't mentioned Connor Mills and the countless others that are, Zazaya, Eagle Blanc, Mike D. There's people who, that are rumored to be going elsewhere as well. So yeah, it's something I take pride in, and I want to keep continuing going. It's something I don't want it to end. I'm like, okay, there were some good wrestlers, and then they're going to be snatched, and now they're gone, and now there's nothing. I want it to be that, like, if I was able to say, okay, I'm also going to leave at this point, I know that it's in good hands, and I know that it's going to be healthy for many, many years to come.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end it off.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely.
Michael, thank you so much for giving us some time of your evening. I know we went a bit overboard with time. I think we're coming to an hour and a half now.
No, it's all good.
So we always like to give the last moment to the guests we have on to just promote themselves, where they're going to be, where you can see us. So as much time as you want, this is your moment now.
Try to mute that cough like a proper professional. MichaelOka.com is the first place I always promote because that's where you can get my merch from. I do have a Pro Wrestling Tees store that I forgot that I set up ages ago, but I got an email saying I had one sale from there. So I should probably like update that and say and put more shirts on there. But I have a Pro Wrestling Tees store. I think it's slash the OJMO, and that's like most of my social media is at the OJMO. If you want to check out what I'm doing, I'll probably just like retweet my dates or retweet my match graphics. So if you want to know what I'm doing, that's how you can see it. Or you can check me out on Instagram, where again I will accept collabs of content that I'm in, or I will post stuff with no caption because John Cena also posts things with no caption. So that's why I do it. But no, check out my stuff and check out the promotion I work at, the RevPros of the world. That obviously that's the main place. So I'd always promote RevPros promotion because if you want to see me, I'm likely to be there. But then I'd also, hey, promote OTT. Or if I'm on an Irish podcast, I might as well promote OTT as well. They've had some incredible moments there. But and of course Amira just wrestled recently that she had a championship match there just recently. So yeah, so 100%. So those are the places that you can go to check out my stuff, and thanks for supporting.
Carmel, any last little put things you
No,
want to
look, I can only say thank you for your time and letting us go through your entire career nearly and talk about it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Always good to have these chats. I really do enjoy them. So no, awesome guys. Thank you.
You can make sure to follow ourselves, FiveMarks Pod on X and TikTok, FiveMarks Podcast everywhere else. Carmel, wrap it up. Let's send it home.
100%. Hit that like button as well and subscribe, please, and thank you. Michael, once again, thank you for joining us. But we have been the FiveMarks Pro Wrestling Podcast, and for another episode, we are officially ding, ding,